This is Still a Part of Us, a podcast where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter Red, and in this episode of advice and encouragement from a lost mom, I chat with Liza, whose daughter Paige was stillborn at 36 weeks due to a placental abruption and HELLP syndrome. By the way, you can hear Liza's and her husband Adam's episodes about the birth of their child on episodes 52 and 54. Today we discuss with Liza how she allows herself the grace to feel all of the feelings, and how she and Adam decided and navigated the birth of their next child via surrogacy, and how she's learned to be more and very present now. As a word of caution to our listeners, this discussion contains emotional triggers of stillbirth and infant loss. Please keep yourself emotionally and mentally healthy and seek help if needed. Hope this helps someone out there today. Liza, thank you so much again for joining me on the podcast today. We have had, just such a powerful story of your daughter Paige, her birth story, and everything you went through after that. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, please jump on over and take a listen, because you will be just shocked and amazed at how much Liza has been through. So thank you. Welcome again, Liza, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So as some context anyway, how long ago was Paige born?
Just about 2.5 years, November 12th, 2017.
Okay, so it's at the time of this recording, it's 2.5 years, and that seems kind of just like yesterday, but also kind of a long time ago too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. What has that grieving process looked like for you after you guys had her funeral? What did that look like shortly after, and then just 6 months later, a year later?
Mm-hmm. As I said in the previous episode, I have experienced loss a lot before, and you think you know what you're getting into, but you don't. It's a loss like no other. And I really wasn't fully prepared for it. The days right after, you're kind of like in this daze of, okay, I have another child. I need to take care of him. And at the time, my husband was falling apart, just coming unglued at the seams. It was, in the beginning, there was no time for me to grieve properly, because I needed to take care of the boys in my life at the time.
Yeah.
But all that does is prolong the process.
Yeah.
You don't get to escape it.
Yeah.
I took 10 weeks off of work.
Good.
We decided to get a puppy.
Because why not?
Right? I mean...
Was that after your one dog died? Just up and...
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. We were like, I'm home, and distraction would be nice. And so we just were like, yeah, let's just jump in and get another puppy. We did have another dog at the time.
Yeah.
An older one. So give me something to do.
Yeah,
because I remember sitting there like, I'm used to working full time and being a mom, and now I don't have a job at the moment to do.
Yeah.
What do I do with myself? I feel like I'm supposed to be doing stuff, grieving and crying and screaming, and I did all those as it came to me. But like I'm the type of person, I need a purpose. I need something to do. I can't just sit around and do nothing, especially for 10 weeks. I can't.
Yeah. That's really astute of you to know yourself well enough to realize that it's not all about just, yourself, that you need a purpose, and you're not just going to sit around and wring your hands and cry the entire time. But that's,
no.
So having a purpose
right.
actually helps you, it sounds like.
So, I mean, the first thing we did as soon as we got home was find a therapist.
Great.
So yes, I it was just too much for us to be able to try to even do this on our own, and I wasn't even going to try. I have been in therapy in and out throughout my life for various different things, so I was familiar with the process, and the stigma doesn't really bother me. So I was like, yep, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need to do. I remember saying to her, like, I don't know what to do with myself, like I'm just watching TV, like wasting away, And I said, I want to go back to work. I want to go back to work early. And she said, go back to work early if you feel ready, but not because you want to avoid the feelings that you need to have. And I was like, huh, you can sort of think about it, and and it's like, well, what does that mean?
So what you're saying.
Yeah, but she was right. I needed, and there's no like, okay, 8 weeks you do this, and 9 weeks you do this, but I needed to not run away from it. I needed to be silent with myself at home by myself, to cry and be mad and just whatever feelings came to me, that's what I needed to do. So in the very beginning, that's what I did. I took the time, the quiet. My son went back to daycare. My husband went back because the husband doesn't get maternity leave.
Yeah.
Nobody at his job was forcing him to go. But he like I said, he was coming unglued. He was falling apart. He needed a purpose, a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
My reason. And I remember saying to myself, I don't get to parent Paige, but I do get to parent AJ, and I'm going to be the best parent I possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what my life would have looked like if this was my firstborn that I lost. I think it's an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
I still had a 3-year-old who, is not self-sufficient and can't cook his own meals or take a bath by himself or, go play in the neighborhood unsupervised,
He needs you. Yeah.
He does. And for me, I think that's what I needed to get out of bed in the morning. He was my light. He was my life. He was just my everything. He still is, So in the beginning, it was just all about making sure that I allowed myself the grace to feel whatever it was I wanted to feel. Happy, sad, mad, excited, all of those things, good and bad, And then I remember the first day going back to work, driving down. It's a 2-mile road to get to my office, and my hands are sweaty. My stomach is in knots. I was a nervous wreck. Why? I don't know. I have no idea why I was so nervous. So I get out of the car and I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. And I get in the elevator, and there's a guy that comes in the elevator with me, and I don't even know his name. We see each other in passing because we work on the same floor. And he looks at me and he says, you just had a baby, right? And I was like, there it is. First 5 seconds.
That's why you're nervous. Yep.
Yep. So I am sure I'm not the only lost mom that has about 1,000 thoughts that run through your head when somebody asks you a question like that on how to answer it. And it's not because you want to hide your child. My reasoning for thinking of all the scenarios and planning them out in this 1 second that you have to answer them is, what's their reaction going to be?
Yeah.
So I decided to, I said, yes, I had a baby and she did not survive. If he could have melted into the wall, he would have.
Yeah.
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 And he was, I'm sorry. And I was like, it's okay, and I realized that I have to comfort other people more often when they hear my story than they comfort me.
Yeah. It just kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately, because it's like a shock and they don't know what to say. They don't. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so funny
Yes.
how that works.
Yes. Yes. It was something I wasn't prepared for, I think. I prepared myself for my initial coworkers that, work right next to me. They all know. But I wasn't sure what they were going to say. I didn't even think about the acquaintances that I have that might not have heard, you know? Darn it, I'm such a planner. How did I miss that one?
Dang it. Oh, isn't it amazing?
Um, so so after the first day of work, I felt a lot better.
Good.
Um,
Was it nice to be back
but
at work?
it was nice to have something else to focus on, to exercise my brain, to, use those fancy degrees that I have. I read something a long time ago that said, grief is like the ocean and it comes in waves.
Yeah.
And the description is something like, and somebody might have even said it on your podcast. I'm not sure. In the beginning, it's the waves are just crashing over you and you can't even stand up and you're gasping for air and you can't get it. And then, the tide goes out a little bit and, okay, it's every other wave that's getting you. And you sort of go a little bit back to normal life. And okay, I went back to work. I can handle this. Okay, what's my next step? I can handle this. Um, and now I think being 2 years out, it's easier to plan. The very first angelversary, I was a nervous wreck again because I didn't know what to expect. Would I want people around me? Would I not? Would I want to be at the cemetery all day? Would I was irrationally angry because her birthday is in November and I can't just have a picnic and sit with her for 3 hours outside because I live in New England and it's freezing.
Yeah. But it's fine to be angry about that kind of thing, I think.
So, being 2.5 years out, what does grief look like now? I still have good days and bad days. They're still unpredictable, but they're much farther apart than they were in the beginning. And I think that my husband and I as a team he can recognize when I'm having, like a bad day. So we've sort of developed coping skills. Either, he'll mind the children while I just go for a walk by myself, or I'll say to him, like, listen, I need to go to the cemetery today. I'll be back later. And, and I go and I cry and I do what I need to do. And then I can come back to regular life, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, because you can't cry all the time or else your
No.
brain is just going to explode. I mean, like, just
Right.
yourself can only handle so much grief, it feels like, and
seriously,
or you're gonna just be sleeping all the time. That's how it feels to me. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So so Paige is she's buried at the cemetery. Are there any things that that's a place that you can go visit and it's close by, you know how to get there. It's very close. You can find it easily. Are there any other things that you have around your house or little tokens or totems or tattoos or anything like that you have to help remind you of her throughout your day?
Yes. So I guess it was 2 months later, I went and got a giant tattoo.
Oh, okay.
I had a couple previously, and my plan was, so AJ and Paige are both rainbow babies.
Oh,
and
yes.
my plan was, after Paige was born and we were done with our family, I wanted to get a phoenix on my back just to signify, the good from the bad, and the rising from the ashes, and my tattoos are more symbolic rather than spelling out what they are to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer them that way. So the phoenix just sort of spoke to me, even before we conceived Paige. When I had that miscarriage, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to have another rainbow baby. This fits my theme, and I'm going to get a big old phoenix, and it'll be for both the kids. And at the time, it was very uncertain what our family was going to look like, our future family was going to look like. All of our therapists had recommended don't make any decisions for at least a year, which of course I was like, what? Like, that's insane. That's forever. I don't want to,
I got no time for that.
Exactly. Let's get the show on the road. I'm getting old.
Liza, I feel like we're so alike in so many ways.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree.
So I just decided that I think that it would be cathartic for me. So I made an appointment, and actually it was the first time that I drove after dark, because I was not allowed. I was cleared to drive about 2 months after, but I was not allowed to drive in the dark
because it was still quite fuzzy. Your vision was not so clear.
I think the light could like sort of play tricks with my brain, and of course I don't want to hurt anybody, including myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the all clear from the doctor, but I was like, I can do this.
That'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I was. So I have a very large tattoo of a phoenix, and I added a halo for Paige.
Yeah.
So that's my tribute to her in the phoenix. I also made, I guess you'd call it a birth announcement, for Christmas that year. I have her handprints, and I made for every, sub-family within our family. So my sisters and their families, and my parents and my husband's parents and his brother. And so it has her handprints and her birth date, birth weight, her length, and it says "Too beautiful for Earth." So I made one for everybody.
That is really a sweet idea. I love that. That's really so cute.
Thank you. So we have one of those. Unfortunately, we have a shelf in our living room that we refer to as our wall of death. Because
sounds about right.
Yep. It has, so it has her handprints, the picture of her handprints. Friends of ours also took a few, so there were roses that I chose for the spray over her casket, and they had taken some and had them preserved. So
nice.
They look like they're alive forever. And it's almost like, the glass thing that in Beauty and the Beast, the rose is in. It's shorter, but it's like that.
Oh,
so
good.
It's got a couple of roses, and it's in this little display thing. So that's up there. The ashes from both of our dogs, because we lost our second one 6 months after this, are on that shelf.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the wall going up the staircase to the second floor of my house is 2 stories. It's, huge wall. My parents have the same situation, and they have what I call the family wall. So it's a whole bunch of pictures of all the people in the family, from when we were kids to adults to my grandparents to my parents' grandparents. It's just sort of our history on the wall. So when I bought my house, I was like, well, that's a great use of that space, because it's ginormous, So I remember looking at it, and I was like, I would like Paige on the wall. We did have, Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep came unbeknownst to me, because I was in surgery. So Adam had to make the decision. So we do have the professional pictures from them of Paige.
Good.
And I hesitated to put her on our family wall. And I was like, this is stupid. I don't care if other people are uncomfortable. This is my house, So I felt so much better with her picture up on the wall.
Good.
So yeah, we have lots of things around the house. And up until last Christmas, we had her nursery still untouched.
Okay.
Fully ready to go, fully stocked with her clothes, diapers, wipes, everything. And we didn't change it until my surrogate was very far along with our now living daughter.
Yeah.
So
So did you
I had that
decide
too.
did you decide not to touch anything just because you couldn't quite bring yourself to do that yet, or was it just a place? Is it a
So
place that you go to and sit and be with her?
it was partially that, and it was partially we didn't know what avenue. We knew we wanted to have a sibling for AJ. We didn't know how we were going to accomplish that, so I didn't want to undo anything before we had
Gotcha.
made a decision.
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah.
And so you guys decided to have another child, another sibling, um,
Hmm.
and for AJ, and you decided to go the surrogate route. Tell me how you guys decided upon that. I'm assuming that your birth story that you told is a large part of that, but let's hear it from you.
You would be correct in that assumption. So it probably was not quite a year after, but I got over my annoyance with our doctors and therapists that told us to wait a year before they'd even talk to us about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking back, I think it is sound advice. I really do think it's sound advice. There's a lot that you have to process before you're ready to take on the next set of stress, because whatever the next step looks like, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to be very informed in all of our options. And when we first had trouble conceiving AJ, we had said, we're not going to do IVF. It's too expensive. I don't want to deal with the shots and what do the drugs do to you and, all that kind of stuff. How things change. But
Life will do that to you, throw you a curveball.
never say never. That's what I've learned. Never say never
Yeah.
about anything.
Yeah. Yep.
So we decided to look into adoption first, because it was sort of least invasive and we didn't really know a lot about it. And no, that's not true. We went to go see my OB and said, what do you think about me carrying again? And he said, no problem. We'll deliver a healthy baby this time. It's no problem, but I want you to go see an MFM.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
So he said they're the experts, at the time. I think I was 34, I think, when we started. So, you're getting to the geriatric pregnancy age
Yeah.
of 35.
Yeah. The cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, great. So I did have my hospital records sent there. So they did review them. I just haven't seen them myself. And she went through them and she basically said, what happened to me is super rare. That there have not really been a lot of medical advances around HELP syndrome in 40 years.
Oh.
And that it's pretty much a 50-50 chance of it happening again.
That's pretty high.
Those are terrible odds.
Yeah, basically.
I have heard and read some people say 25%. I've seen 30%. I've seen 50-50. What I've deduced from the things that I've read is I think they really don't know. They don't know what causes it or what doesn't cause it, so it's kind of a crapshoot either way. So me, being the stubborn Jersey girl that I am, I'm like, I can handle this. I can do this, But then my very logical husband talks me off the ledge and says, listen, you cheated death once. Can you do it again? Do you want to try?
Let's not do that. Good job,
Adam. You have
Adam.
a son to think about, And I'm like, oh yeah, you got to be all logical on me, So it was kind of like, okay. So what are our options? Our options are we can be done, which is, it didn't feel right to us. We wanted another child, adoption, or surrogacy. And surrogacy never really came into my mind in the beginning, but shortly after, I want to say 3 months after we buried Paige, we have two very good friends. Um, Tony was my husband Adam's roommate in college, and his wife Michelle. So, and they're all from the same town. So Adam has known them forever and ever, and I met them when I met Adam, which is like 17 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't be that old.
You aren't. You aren't.
So you're only as old as you feel,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had come over, and they had been just supportive, calling, checking in, making us go out, taking us out, just the most wonderful. I don't know why I forgot about this memento. One night, I get a text message from Michelle. She had dropped something at my front door, and it was late. It was like 10 o'clock. And I was like, why didn't you knock on the door? We're awake, come in and whatever. She's like, I didn't want to bother you, whatever. She had ordered, it's a necklace, and it's a heart with a little heart cut out of it. And the little heart is another necklace, and it's buried with Paige.
Oh.
So I have the big heart
Yeah.
that I wear every day, and the little heart that's cut out of it is buried with Paige.
With her. Wonderful. That was really nice of her.
So they had just come over that day, and they called, and I think it was Michelle. She was like, well, can you put it on speakerphone? And in my head, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? You were just here like an hour ago, They wanted to tell us that they had talked about it and talked to their OB, and they wanted to carry a baby for us.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? Like, what do you say? I don't know what to say. So I guess we said nothing, because they were like, are you still there?
Well, it is kind of a shocker. You're like, you would do that? Like I think that is
right.
Yeah, that's a big
deal. Yes. And pregnancy is miserable, no matter how you slice it, no matter how much you want it. It's difficult.
Yeah. Yep.
So at the time, we had said that we hadn't made up our minds, and probably wouldn't for a while, but that we would keep it in the back of our mind. When the time was right, we would make the decision and let them know. So that's kind of how surrogacy even came on the table, because after looking into it, we couldn't afford an agency and hiring someone, and it just was not financially feasible for us. But I was like, I don't want to inconvenience them. They have 2 children. It's a lot to ask.
It is, yeah.
And I'm not really one to ask for help. I'm kind of like, I'll just get it done on my own kind of person. So just the thought of just putting them out like that, we can't do that. We can't do that. So we started exploring adoption. My husband has some friends that have adopted before, so we just wanted information. And what really kind of turned us off for it is the birth parents have 45 days to change their mind.
Oh.
So essentially, I could have a baby that I think is mine for 44 days and have to give it up on the 45th day.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
My heart can't handle it.
Yeah.
There are millions of children that need homes, and I want to give a child a home, but I can't do it that way.
Yeah. I don't want to lose again.
I think exactly. I've already buried one. I think having to give one up that's still alive might even be worse. I've never lived it, but
yeah,
I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Okay.
So I said, well, I guess our only option is surrogacy, and I still was like, I don't want to do that to another person. It's a lot. But I said, let's go talk to our fertility doctor and get some information, and, we'll make an informed decision. So we talked to her, and, we love her. She has been with us since the beginning of building our family. She has lived all of this with us. And we left there saying, this is the right option for us. And it had been some months. And I was like, what if they change their mind? What if they don't want to do it anymore? And so random. We're driving home from the appointment, and Michelle calls, and she's like, I have a babysitter. Do you want to go out to dinner? And I was like, this is fate aligning,
Yeah.
that they were able to get a babysitter. They want to get together with us, on the day that we have this appointment that we want to ask them this huge question.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
Stars
So
aligned.
we went to dinner and asked and said, like, listen, you're not obligated. We're not mad at you. You don't have to do this. It has been, 6+ months. Life changes. We get it. And they both were like, no, we're going to do this.
Wow.
We want to do this.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Talk about good friends.
No kidding. No kidding. That is really amazing. And so you guys had all of that done, and I'm assuming that I'm assuming you were worried for Michelle, because I would be like,
my.
I just because you're like, this help thing happened to me. It could happen to anybody. Like I would just be so worried.
And we talked about that. So you have to go through psych evaluations before you can continue with this process, which is good because, you have to talk about hard things. What happens if the baby's in distress? What happens if the surrogate doesn't survive? Like these things can happen and you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
All four of you.
Yeah.
What if your two girls don't have a mother? Could I live with myself? And they were just very confident that it wasn't going to happen. And I was so not as confident,
Well, with your background, yeah, I'd be like, ooh.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And they were blessed. They had 2 healthy, normal, run-of-the-mill pregnancies, no issues, So I think that, they've walked this journey with us, but haven't had to feel it firsthand. So it's not that they never dismissed my fears, but they can't really feel it like I feel it,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, it was in the beginning, it was easier because, she lives about 25 minutes from us and she works full time. She has her own family. We work full time. It was easy to put it out of my head. It was, she wasn't showing. So they really, like I can't feel the baby move. There are no belly pics to show because, in the beginning, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
And then I also think that I didn't really allow myself to think that this was going to end well. I wouldn't allow myself to picture me holding a baby at the end. I didn't buy anything for a long time because I was afraid that I was going to jinx it.
Yeah.
Because Paige's room. So in the Jewish religion, you don't have a baby shower because they feel it's bad luck.
Oh.
You do everything after the fact.
Okay.
I'm not exceptionally religious, but it sort of just nags at the back of your head. Like, did I jinx it because I didn't believe in the superstition?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your mind does funny things to yourself.
Yep. That is for sure.
Yep. So I remember the first time I got to feel the baby move. We had gone out to lunch to hibachi with the kids, with the husbands, we all went. And she said, do you want to feel her move? And I guess she was very, very low because she looked at Adam and she was like, no, not you. It's too low. And Adam was like, no problem.
No, yep, I'm
you're
good.
The boss. But I got to feel her and it was so cool, but so like another out of body experience at the same time, because I think I just wasn't allowing myself to get excited.
Yeah.
I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Well-intentioned people are like, oh, she's past 12 weeks. It's safe. And I'm like, there is no safe zone.
There's no safe zone, people.
The safe zone is when they're screaming in your arms.
Yeah.
That's when
and
it's
you
safe,
are good.
Yeah.
Where everybody is all healthy and good.
Yes. Yeah. So that it was, I think it was less stressful than if I had carried myself, but came with different stresses, like she didn't answer my text messages in an hour. Is she okay? And, just dumb. She has a life,
Yeah, but so
but
you just worry.
Yeah, your mind it just goes a mile a minute and you think the worst because you've lived the worst, know?
Yeah.
So
did you continue going to counseling and everything during
oh yeah,
this too?
I still am.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was about to say, I was
Yep.
like, I just feel like this is that would be it's just loaded. Like it's riddled with triggers all over the place and
all over the place. Yes. Yeah. Well, and the fact that I wasn't seriously allowing myself to feel the things I needed to feel was also sort of concerning.
Yeah.
What I realized now that we're on the other side of it, it wasn't really that I wasn't allowing myself to feel it. I think I was just holding my breath the entire time, waiting for that phone call where someone is dead, because that's just how my life has gone lately, because so she allowed us both to be in the delivery room.
Oh.
So Tessa was born on March 16th and Connecticut went into lockdown on March 17th. So we got in there by the skin of our teeth.
Seriously.
And actually we had to have special permission given to us in labor and delivery for my husband and I to be in the delivery room because they were limiting visitors at the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And my surrogate had said from the beginning that we could both be there. She requested that Adam stay up by her head. And I was like, that's perfectly okay. So with AJ, he was a C-section, so I didn't get to hold him at first. Paige, I was a train wreck, so I didn't get to hold her at first either. I looked at my husband, I was like, I am holding this one first. Don't you even try it.
Dang it, she's mine. Oh.
That is a moment I will never forget. And she screamed. She came out pissed.
Well, that's good. That is good. This is what you want to hear.
The best sound and people talk about a silent delivery room. I don't know. I'm sure mine was, but I was completely put under. So I don't know, what happened after Paige was born. But I remember when the OB first held her up, Tessa, she's screaming. My husband and I just look at each other and just like lose it. And I realized that I had been holding my breath this entire time for all these months and all these weeks and all these years, and I just exhaled. It sounds so stupid, but like it just was the best feeling in the whole world. It really was.
Oh, that relief, that relief.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That gave me chills. Yay. I'm so glad she's here. I'm so glad she's here.
Yes, me too.
So tell me a little bit about things that people have said to you or done for you that has really been memorable or moving or helpful to you through this entire process. Especially, I'm actually curious to see what people have said about Tess and like that pregnancy, because it seems like some people can say a lot of funny different things. Stupid things.
Yeah.
So anything that was good and some things maybe not so good that people have said to you.
Yeah. I mean, I consider myself lucky. I have read some horrible things people have said to lost moms. And for the most part, I go into it knowing that genuinely or generally don't have intent. They just don't know what to say and they're uncomfortable. So they just say stuff, but you can always have another one, or, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, or everything happens for a reason. All those cliche things are not helpful. Yeah. They're not helpful and they're not hurtful. And, oh, well, thank God you already had a child. Well, that doesn't make the loss of the other one any less.
Yep. Love AJ, love Paige. I mean, love both of them.
Yeah, you're young, you can have more children, which also hurts because if they didn't understand our fertility struggles in the first place, it's not easy for us to have a child in any sense of the word,
Yeah, exactly.
Um, what else? I think those are probably the major ones. Nobody has told me that I have to get over it. So that's good because I might have punched them.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone said that to me, oh, hello.
No, there are people who have said, I'm surprised you're not over it yet. And you're kind of like, have you had to bury a child? No. So don't comment,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
Helpful things. I remember, so I'm kind of like a private crier, I guess I would say. I don't really like to cry in front of people. And I remember standing in Paige's room, and Michelle is just standing next to me because I wanted to show people her room because it's all I have.
Yeah.
I was proud of her room. I was proud of all the decorations and the paint and and Michelle didn't even say anything. She just stood there and let me cry, which is awkward for a lot of people, you know, and it wasn't. And I didn't feel awkward with her. And it just, I don't think she knows. I don't think her or her husband know how integral they were in helping us, get through this
Yeah.
by leaving pieces of jewelry that I can bury with my child and keep with me forever, and letting us cry and taking us to dinner because we've probably been in the same clothes for a week and haven't showered, and just calling and texting and even now, 2.5 years later, they still do that.
That's,
you know
oh man, you got to hold on to those friends.
oh yeah, forever.
Yeah, basically.
Mhm. Mhm.
Seriously, that is,
Yeah,
they are godsends, it sounds like. That's,
one of a
yeah.
kind, once in a lifetime kind of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Mhm.
And it sounds like
Mhm.
you and Adam have really bonded together, like you came together and are stronger through this. Has he been doing okay? How has his grief looked?
Um, it's different than mine. And I think so, in addition to individual counselors, we also got a couples counselor,
Okay.
because we do grieve differently. And I would consider myself kind of a complicated person. I have a lot of baggage that he doesn't have. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I didn't know how to deal with him, and he didn't know how to deal with me. And, the people that we were that drove to the hospital on November 11th are not the people that existed on November 12th,
Yeah.
and you can't, I don't think a marriage can plan for that. What was okay on November 11th is not okay on November 12th.
Yeah.
There was a long time there when I was like, no, I'm done. This marriage is over. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I think that's why they tell you don't make any rash decisions, for a year, because, it's a process and you have to work through it. And part of it is anger and resentment. And, I wasn't angry at him. I was angry about everything,
Yeah.
And I had a chance to, clear my head, and through therapy. And, this is the only person that I can share this story with that lived it with me. That I could find another husband. It wasn't their daughter, and I could tell him the story, but he wasn't there,
Yeah.
and just, it just puts things in perspective. And I was not willing to give up on our marriage, on our family, is it perfect? No. Is it always pretty? No. But we have learned, I think, how to support each other better after this,
Awesome.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. Coming out of it a
Mhm.
little bit stronger or a little bit more aware of each other that's great. That's a huge
Yes.
bonus of that. So,
Yep. Hmm.
have you had any aha moments about this process, or anything that kind of stood out to you that you realized through grieving and mourning and going through a surrogacy? I mean, like, anything that has stood out that is like, whoa, this was different, or
I think people that if they listen to the birth story and they're going to be like, no, that's not real. That's not a real person's story.
It's crazy town. If you seriously have not listened to it, it's crazy town, you guys.
I've been told I should write a book maybe someday.
Yeah.
Aha moments. I mean, things that I've learned. Yes, an aha, like eye-opening moment. Not really. I think that I live life a little more than I used to. That you appreciate it more. I try very hard to be very present with AJ. Tessa is too little. She doesn't really do anything yet. She's only 2 months old, but I will try the same for her. I used to be, and I still am, a little bit of a workaholic, but I try to separate. My son is only little once, and I only get to experience these things once, and he needs his mom, and so maybe that's an aha moment, kind of just live life. It's short, and you don't know what's going to happen. And, we just were like, hey, let's go to Disney World. So we did last year.
Good.
We said, listen, we have a new baby coming. We're going to turn AJ's life upside down. Let's have this experience with just him while he's still just an only child.
Yeah.
And we never would have done that.
Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah. And it was awesome. It was exhausting, but it was awesome.
As Disney is.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I like that. Just being a little bit more present and enjoying that.
Yes.
That time together. Any last piece of advice that you want to share with us?
I have lots of pieces of advice because I've been thinking about this and thinking about
let's keep talking about it then, because I just it's so important, because I a lot of times the people that listen to this podcast love these advice episodes, because it's
they're my favorite. I mean, I love the birth story, but yes, the advice is wonderful.
Yeah, because you're like, that's a really good thought. I can do that too. I mean, like,
Yes. So the first piece of advice is more not towards the grieving families, but if you know people that are grieving, the first thing is show up to the services, whatever they are, however uncomfortable they make you. I can tell you even now who was there and who wasn't. And it's not like a tit for tat thing. It has nothing to do with that. It's just who showed up at your most vulnerable moment and made themselves uncomfortable enough, because those things are uncomfortable. Go to the wake, go to the funeral, show them that you're thinking about them, that you care. It's important. And then after that, keep going. 6 months out, a year out, you might have forgotten and your life has moved on, but the person who buried their child, they don't forget. They never forget. There is not, and I have never made it an entire day without thinking about her, talking about her, relating something in my life that is a result of the experiences that I had with Paige, and I think people forget. It's very easy for them to forget. Don't forget. Remember the important dates, anniversaries, all those things is important. Therapy for me, I think, is very important. It helped us a lot and continues to help sort through this jumbled mess that is the human brain. So the last thing that I did, and it was kind of by accident, and I think it's been most helpful for me, I may come off as an extrovert because I can talk, but I have a little social anxiety, out of my comfort zone. So, I'm a little bit of a homebody. I don't really put myself out there. But the internet and Facebook allow you to be in your comfort zone, but also connect with people.
Yes.
So I one night was just searching for Facebook groups, to just find a blessing and a curse. I have no one in my life that I can talk to about my fertility journey, my child loss. They have not that's not true. I can talk to them. They haven't experienced it. So their responses back and their advice are a little bit different,
Yes, for sure.
than if you've lived it. I don't want to diminish, my friends that have been there, because it's been super, super helpful too. Um, I found a Facebook group. It's called Turning Hearts, and it just was the first one that popped up
Mm-hmm.
for, stillbirth and infant loss. And I was like, hey, whatever, I'll join this. And, just reading their stories and oh my gosh, these people get it, like I don't have to explain why I have these weird thoughts in my head, or why I'm so suddenly afraid that my son is going to die or be stolen, or these crazy crazy things
Yeah.
in your head. And so it was just about a year later. They do a retreat every year. Probably not this year, but I wasn't ready to. I was like, no, I can't go to a house with a bunch of strangers. I can't do that. No, no, no. I don't know what came over me the next year, because the next year I was like, I'm going to go. I want to go, and it's in Tennessee. So I have to take an airplane. It's not like,
It's not
I
just
just
down the
drive down the
street.
street.
Okay, okay.
It's like a serious, commitment. And I talked to my therapists about it, because I'm also afraid to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my therapist about it, and I said, I have to do this. I want to do this. I don't want to chicken out. And they helped, calm the anxiety. I got some Xanax, which helped with the airplane.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And even my husband will tell you he didn't think I was going to get on the plane. He was fully supportive of me going, but he said, no, there's no way she's going to get on the plane. Well, I got on that plane, and I spent 4 days with 15 other moms that know exactly how I feel, and I don't even have to say the words.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how helpful it has been I found my tribe, these tribe of warriors, of women, of lost moms, that you can be ugly and pretty and complicated and all of it. You can be all of it, and they will love you anyway.
Yeah.
And say, it's okay to feel like you're going to lose your mind. It's okay, to cry, and it's okay to feel this anxiety, and they get it. And these people that were strangers, it's just, find your tribe. You have to find them and lean on them.
Yeah.
I think is my piece of advice.
That's so I feel like I've fallen into a little bit of a tribe too here in my local area, and I'm super grateful for the girl who kind of she kind of Instagram stalked a bunch of people, because I know that sounds terrible, but you know how you can geotag, but her baby's buried in Babyland in our cemetery, and so she was just looking at other people's posts in that area, and all of a sudden we have a group of 15 women that we get together on a regular basis, aside from pandemic time, of course. But yeah. But it is really nice to have that group of women that I'm just like, this is really crappy. And they're like, yeah, totally is.
Yep. It's totally crappy, Yes. And you don't have to explain yourself to them.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Finding that tribe is so, so important. It just feels comforting. Doesn't feel so alone, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this was so good. This was so good. Liza, thank you. You have been so it's been so fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
Feel like I know Paige. I feel like I know your family, and I'm so sad that you didn't get to spend tons of time with her. But I'm so grateful for your sharing her story and sharing your advice, because I think it's going to help a lot of other people. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me a platform to do it.
Oh, anytime. I appreciate you sharing. So thank you again.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Liza for being so open about her daughter Paige and her experiences with grief and loss. And it was just delightful just to chat with her today. She and I have actually exchanged a few emails after our interview, and she actually shared a few tidbits that I thought I really wanted to share with you. And she gave me permission to read her email. And so one thing she says that I thought was so interesting, if you haven't listened to her birth story, her sister encouraged her to go to the hospital the night that she found out that Paige had passed away. And she said something that in her email, she says, "I fully believe my sister saved my life that night. I don't know if I believe in the phrase, everything happens for a reason, but if I wasn't visiting my parents that night, I absolutely would have gone to bed that night to sleep it off, and I wouldn't have woken up. Heavy things that weigh on my mind so much." So she's thought about that so much to really, I think that did happen for a reason. So, and then she said something that she distilled really quite nicely, a thought that I've had, and she put it just so concisely. So I wanted to read that section as well. She said, "My advice is to beware of what I call collateral damage of this trauma and grief. I was fully prepared for feeling sad and angry for a long time. What I wasn't prepared for was how much I had changed as a person, which in turn rippled out into all my relationships I had, family, friends, coworkers, etc. I am a completely different person than I was 2.5 years ago, and I've lost some friends along the way and also gained some as well. I didn't expect some people to fade away, nor did I expect to let them. It's something that some days I can accept and continue on with, and some days the gravity of it hurts my heart so bad. Since stillbirth is still such a taboo subject, there were a lot of things I wasn't prepared for. This one is one that impacts me every day of my life, and I wish I had prepared myself for it so I wasn't completely blindsided." That was just a really nice piece of advice, that just to be aware that your relationships may change. And there are days that there's been a few relationships that have gone differently than I expected, and it does make my heart hurt as well, like she said, so badly. So just be aware of that as you are navigating this time of grief and loss after you've lost a child. Once again, Liza, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing Paige with us, and for sharing some advice on how to navigate this really, really tricky time. Head on over to our website, stillapartofus.com, where you can find the show notes, including a full transcript of this interview and any resources that were mentioned, where you can sign up for our short and helpful email newsletter, and where you can learn how to become a patron and support the work it takes to produce the show for just a few dollars a month. And lastly, where you can find out how to get in touch with us if you want to share your child's story on the show. The show was produced and edited by Winter and Lee Red. Thanks to Josh Woodward for letting us use his song Vanishing Note. You can find him at joshwoodward.com. Lastly, subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend that might need it, and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they are still a part of us.
Outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. Groucho Marx.